Welcome everyone to our show, Aggregators and Brands. And today we have John Fang and also my great friend, Omar, also my co-host. So today we'll talk about, again, what is this, like, the aggregators are doing, and as well as, like, how should the brands act, how they should grow, what type of a strategy process they should define to have a better valuation. I think that will be a super exciting call. I'm already excited. So Omar, what's your...
Definitely. It's very interesting. John Fang, you're the managing director and the managing partner of the Two Road Advisors. It's an M&A firm based out of New York. And can you tell us a little bit more what you're doing and where you seeing yourself in this incredible game, what is just about to start off,
Great. Hi, Omar. Thank you so much for putting me on the podcast. I'm really excited. So, our firm engages in helping brands basically sell for maximum value to aggregators, investors, strategics, family offices. In the last 8 months, we've completed over 7 transactions in the Amazon space. So we sold Trend Nation, which was a private label brand in the sleepwear and garden, home and kitchen verticals to Skybox Capital. We sold Strictly Bricks, which was a private label brand in the children toy space, to Cap Hill Brands, which is an aggregator. We sold Strife Marketing Agency, which was actually an agency focused on helping Amazon brands, kind of like your agency.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I know.
In the U.S., we sold them to a private equity fund called Everlane Capital in Boston, in the States. And then we sold 180 Commerce, which is another tech-enabled marketing agency in the U.S., which we sold to Cart.com, which is one of these unicorn, Shopify killer type businesses. We also advised E10, one of the OG aggregators, on a secondary capital raise in the public market. So we've been very active in the Amazon space. We actually have another 5 clients right now out to market. One is in the blanket and candle space. One is in the shower head and bath space. One is in the what I would call basic apparel, boxer briefs, t-shirts space. And so, we're constantly working with brands, and you're right, it's a big game right now. I mean, when you raise $11 billion, right? Yeah. Funding the likes of Perch and Heyday and Thrasio and Aquaco and Benetago and Rainforest. I mean, there's going to be some form of inflation, right? And for me, definitely, the inflation should work in the brand's favor, which to me means asset prices and prices for the businesses that so many hardworking entrepreneurs in the Amazon ecosystem have built. So, our whole business is helping those entrepreneurs run an auction process and making sure that they get maximum value for the businesses that they've built in selling to these brands. And, I don't think that every aggregator will win. I'll be the brave banker who says that and not sort of mincing words, but some of them will win. And some of them will build really great businesses. And, right now, what matters to these brands is making sure that this amount of capital that's been attracted to the space works in their favor. And to me, that, part of that is not just about knowing who to bring into the ecosystem, but also helping them maximize bottom line. So working with agencies like Margin Business, which should help them basically get overseas revenues, right? I think is a big part of it, and outsource some of the stuff that they do in-house, working with technology companies like Eva so that they can actually see exactly what the levers are that are moving their business, their tacos, which ASINs are selling, how fast new products get rolled out. All of that matters because at the end of the day, what someone pays for a business is, a function of 2 factors. 1, their bottom line, and 2, the multiple and what the market conditions are saying. So right now we're benefiting from that. Our clients are benefiting from that. For the longest time, I think a lot of these brands were interested in sort of just having one-off conversations with the likes of, Thrasio, and they would have this whole 90-day process and at the end get left at the altar meaning Thrasio would cut the price or say, hey, we're not that interested, and they're out 90 days and a lot of their time. But my recommendation to every brand is, if you get approached by one of these groups, pick up the phone and call us. Call Two Roads Advisors. The worst that you can do is that we'll give you, a free view on what we think your business is worth based on the deals that we've completed. But the best you could do is potentially double the value of the business that you would sell if you only had a one-off conversation with one aggregator or with one buyer, because there's a ton of money and attention being focused on marketplace brands right now. And you really should do a full market check in order for you to really maximize the value that you've built.
Amazing.
Definitely.
By the way, one of the things with John, I think, you gave a great idea about like what your firm is doing, but I am also thinking that personally, even John can sell EVA or margin business, Omar. So we need to be, careful.
Exactly. When you guys are ready.
I want to run this business for another couple of years, but when I talk
You're not
to John,
ready.
Like,
you have much more room to grow. Just like our firm has room to grow, you do too. But when you're ready, I would love that call. Thank you.
Absolutely. So one of the questions just comes to my mind. You mentioned 12, even $13 billion is raised as we speak. And that was the big trend was 2 years ago, it was all about Thrasio. And now last year, now we have this mushrooming effect, we have now 80 aggregators all around the world. Now we are entering into 2022. We are almost in the middle of January now. What is your expectation in terms of this fundraising and the kind of the aggregator space? Now the multipliers also increase. Do you think that this trend will continue for another 6 months or a year or 2 or 3? So what's your kind of future prediction in terms of these aggregators fundraising situation?
Yeah, hi, it's a great question. So first of all, I'm not Warren Buffett. I'll be the first one to say that, right? So I can't really see more than a year, maybe a year and a half into the future. Who could have predicted COVID?
Exactly.
When it started, or that the Nasdaq and the S&P would correct by almost a third, right? In 2020. So I would be foolish to tell you that I can predict the future with much certainty. But what we do know is that central banks across the world, including the U.S. Fed, are going to raise interest rates at least twice, if not 3 times, throughout the rest of 2022. So what happens when interest rates go up? Well, the cost of borrowing gets more expensive. What happens when the cost of borrowing gets more expensive? Well, it gets more expensive for buyers to borrow money to buy companies, right? Just like you take a mortgage out on your house, when rates rise, credit markets tend to contract. Now, these rate rises are important, and anyone who sells an Amazon brand or owns an Amazon brand knows that inflation is a big issue right now with the supply chain woes and oversupply and that's going on. And so these rate rises are meant to combat inflation. But what they've done is they've created a little bit of a chill in the stock market, where you see the Nasdaq is already 10% down from its heights and it's in correction territory. Here in the private markets, which is what I traffic in, we have not felt such corrections occur. We've still seen things kind of hockey stick go up and to the right, but at some point, private markets will catch up to public markets. So what it all means is that 2022 may be the best window for you as an owner of a brand to go out to market, because the rate rises haven't been necessarily reflected in private market valuations. Public markets are starting to collapse a little bit. And so you have this window where, if you own a private brand, you may actually want to seize upon all of the capital that's being raised in the space. Do I think capital raises will continue to occur with aggregators as they raise more money? Absolutely. This is the most crowded trade in the capital markets right now. Everyone and his mother wants to create an aggregator, back an aggregator, invest in an aggregator, or be behind an aggregator. So I do still think that more money will flow into the sector. Will it continue past 22? I don't have a crystal ball, but the chances are it's probably not going to continue with the same amount of velocity and volume that it's occurred in the last 12 months. So In my view, if you have a business in the Amazon or marketplace and you want to sell, or you've ever thought about selling, you should do it in the next 9 to 12 months.
Wow, that's a very good prediction. And it makes kind of sense, you know, because when you say everything is going to get more expensive as well, the bigger aggregators get more selective. And this brings me as well to the European aggregators, which are obviously as well a few big ones in there. But from what I've learned is that if you go, for example, to US aggregators, they have bought a lot more brands. That means they have more experience, but it's a different approach when some company has only bought 10 brands than 100 brands, because then the personal touch is still there. They still understand. It's not like, okay, here we go. 10 million. Okay, go away. That's it. No, it's like, you know, they take the customer by the hand. They put him through. Does he want to stay with them? Maybe he wants to stay longer. Maybe he wants to stay infinitively working with the brand. I mean, everything is possible. And I think on my point of view, I don't know, that's why I'm asking you, what do you think about that? That within now the European Union, in the smaller markets, for example, these aggregators obviously have another approach, or maybe even a better approach, because maybe they can provide more liquidity than the big aggregators because they have a lot more to push into their own ecosystem.
Yeah. You know, Omar, that's a really, really great point. So you can either have a fast deal for sort of a lower value, or a slower deal for maximum value, right? And I think you're absolutely right. Some of the aggregators that have, you know, hundreds of acquisitions under their belt, I won't name them, but I think everyone can guess them because they probably got an email from someone in business development at those aggregators. Yeah, I mean, they're all about sort of here's the price and we'll close in 45 days. Whether they actually do that is subject to debate, and you know where I stand. But you're right. I think one of the important things for a brand to consider is to take that time to interview as many groups as possible, because that's what it is, right? You're interviewing these people. Take sort of price off the table. The more you can connect with that buyer on the other side, that organization, I think the better off you are with respect to the value that you'll get for your business, but also, to your point, Omar, the future that you will have in terms of, you know, working with that aggregator to maximize value into the future. Because there is a significant amount of what they call earnout or retained equity components to these deals, where you hold on to 10 or 20% of the purchase price to be paid in the future if your brand does actually succeed within that organization. And how can you know that your brand is going to succeed without interviewing these guys and having that conversation and understanding how you be part of that fabric? Here's the other thing. Most Amazon owners aren't that old. So if you sell your brand, you have to do something moving forward, right?
Yes,
and so definitely. You have to be able to understand, you know, how you might work with that future organization. When you pair that, which is the carrot, with having a banker like Two Roads, which is the stick, to tell all these aggregators, you better, you know, treat my client right, then you have an optimal sort of maximum result.
Absolutely.
Makes
By the
sense.
way, I think,
thank you.
I think it's a great strategy for the brand owners, at least to work in this acquired company for like 6 months, because that will give enough time to, you know, to basically realize more value, because they need the brand owner for sure if he wants
and
to
say goodbye as well.
Exactly. And then also in 6 months, you know, like the brand owner can build his own strategy, because I sometimes see, you know, yesterday I was with another really big brand owner. He wants to sell, but he's like, you know, I want to sell and get rid of this and, you know, go to Hawaii. And I told him, like, so what, you know, you're going to be there for a week, you know, and then come back. Exactly. Why don't you build it into the equation, week, right? You know?
You're gonna be bored. That's how we're all wired. We're all founders and entrepreneurs.
Definitely.
You can't just go to Hawaii. You're gonna get bored.
Exactly. And also, like I told him, like, for example, I'm in San Diego, so where should I go? You know, I'm like, I'm already in a nice place. So
it's true. That's true.
mean, for me to go to Hawaii doesn't make any sense at all, even, you know. So, absolutely. But you know, I think that also makes sense. One of the trends that I'm seeing, John, is like, and you mentioned that already, like for the bottom line, makes a lot of sense. So there is a process, right? Like for example, if a brand owner decides to sell, now they call you, but maybe there is a couple of months of things to be done, like in terms of P&L, preparing the brand in terms of profit, what type of profit they are getting, the inventory levels, how to optimize the business. Because what's your feeling about that, like the preparation? Maybe you can give us an insight. Like if somebody wants to sell, okay, they start talking to you, that makes a lot of sense. And then via yourself, maybe they start interviewing the aggregators or other buyers. But what should be the internal house cleaning that needs to be done?
That's a great question. Hi. And I'll answer it, but I also want to address the previous comment that Omar was making. Look, at the end of the day, nobody can force you to work if you don't want to work, right? But sure. The position that every founder, I believe, or owner of a brand should take is maximum flexibility. What that means is you can stay if you want, and if the buyer wants, and you can go if the buyer doesn't want you to stay on. Having that maximum flexibility gives you more options. Now, to Hai's question about preparing to go to market, look, there's a reason why my firm exists and firms like mine exist, right? It's because selling a company is so much harder than selling like a house, where all you have to do is clean the house, put out a plate of cookies, put a bunch of flyers out, right? A company is a living, breathing thing. It's made of people, it's made of processes, it's made of technologies, it's made of customers, it's made of suppliers and vendors. So yes, our firm exists to basically make sure that all of the groundwork that's necessary to sell a company is done. So for us, we're unique in the sense that because we've worked with e-commerce and Amazon brands for so long, we actually understand exactly how to get into Seller Central, to review ASIN data, to review marketing spend data by channel, to review supply agreements with vendors overseas. And basically what we do is we take that company over a course of 2 to 3 weeks, ready into market through building out a 45-page confidential information presentation, which will have all the financial and strategic and operational overviews of the business. We'll build out a detailed financial model, which will project the performance of the business for the next few years. We'll put together a virtual data room, which will have all the documents that everyone has to collect about their businesses, copies of leases, employment contracts, and the like. A one-page teaser that sort of summarizes the investment opportunity, a massive buyers list. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of investors that we have access to. Investors that you would never even heard of, who may not be in the Amazon space right now, but want to get into it, right? Yeah. Which is when they actually end up paying up a premium to get into that space. And all of that stuff is work that we do up front so that the owner or the CEO of the business doesn't have to actually think about that stuff and can just advocate about his or her brand or business while we're going through this process. Not to mention scheduling calls with the right decision makers at the big companies and the investors and doing all of that. I mean, it's a process, Hai. Right. But in this market, we are doing things faster. For some reason, everything is moving faster. And so, we did a deal every 2 months last year. I would say 4 months is actually a cycle that, a deal can get done from beginning to end.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, makes a lot of sense. One other trend that I see, and I want to ask that question as well, like, again, 2 years ago, when you asked Thrasio what they want to buy, they would say, oh, we are buying Amazon FBA business, full stop. And then everybody was, as they are following the Thrasio, it was like, okay, buying FBA businesses. Now, what I see in the last 6 months, a couple of different trends, like, for example, the aggregators are looking at, do you have like warehouse or Shopify, Walmart, like there is more kind of an omnichannel presence requirement. Like if your business, if 20% of your business is on Shopify, oh, that's much better. What is the trend that you see, when you look at what aggregators are looking for? Is this true, or maybe there is more to that? Like, so we can give some insight to the brand owners in the next 6 to 12 months where they should invest to have more valuation.
This is a tricky one, Hai, and I love these questions because you're asking all the right ones. Look, On this one, I would say that some of the bigger guys are looking for omnichannel because their ultimate strategy is to build an online P&G, right? Or an online Unilever, a big consumer holding, consumer brands holding company that is digitally native, whether that means marketplace or other online channels. And they're having access to Walmart's marketplace or to more sort of a wholesale omnichannel approach can be compelling. But some of the Amazon aggregators are still on their way up to Thrasio's status, right? So they're still trying to build enough FBA volume. And those guys actually don't care about anything other than FBA, FBA, FBA. So you have to look in terms of the life cycle of that aggregator, where they are. If they just raised a round, it's probably likely that they're only looking for FBA and they don't really care about the non-FBA revenue. If they're a little bit more mature, like a Thrasio, and they've built really big volume and what I would call sort of a heft in the Amazon space, then potentially the other channels become a lot more important. In my view on this, it's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Make sure you hire an investment bank that knows which is which. I'm obviously, I'm biased because our firm, I think, does have that knowledge, having dealt with so many of these aggregators, but making sure you know the subtle differences between what a Thrasio would want versus what a Benetago or a Forum Brands or a Foundry wants.
Very good. Very good. I think as well, exactly the same, because we're just at the beginning. I mean, okay, maybe they should sell from the next 6 to 12 months, but I believe as well that, for example, if we look now at Shopify, it's growing crazy. It will be growing even more and more and more because people will realize that they have a lot more hands-on their own customers, and this is at the end the game. And what the aggregators or the ones who want to buy as well want, they want their customers. The product, everyone can do the product, but the customers, the customer base, and the ones who want to buy. So I think really to close this up, if Hai wants to say afterwards something, I really believe that this is something we really have to check. And I think when we speak in a year time, and we look at Shopify, boom, this will maybe even, have a competition, not competition with Amazon, but really like going very near, and people would jump over and try to catch the train there as well. What do you think about that, Hai?
I agree with you. I think that's one reason why the aggregators are more and more looking at what's the Shopify revenues for the Amazon brands. But also, I mean, I think that, Walmart has a great potential. Because if the only challenge with Walmart is like, I still feel like they are too slow. And, because we even manage a few brands, right? And when we apply for like opening up like the store, it takes like months to get an approval from Walmart. It's Definitely. A government, immigration policy. It's like you're going through immigration. So, I mean, that wouldn't work. I mean, like with Amazon, it takes like a day, and with Walmart, it takes months. I don't know why. Now, if that was not the case, because now Walmart at the same time, for example, unified their purchasing power, which means that if you're in the e-commerce store, you are targeted by the retail arm as well. So that gives a great exposure to the brands to be on the Walmart stores as well. So I think that will be what we're gonna see also in US. If Walmart is becoming more agile, let's say, then that will be a lot easier. But in principle, I mean, this was really a great call. I learned a lot of things. I think, definitely when, selling a brand, that makes a lot of sense to go to an investment banker and broker. That makes a lot of sense. And some final words, John, before we leave.
No, look, I appreciate you guys for having me on this podcast. I believe that every Amazon brand or marketplace brand out there deserves a premium value. And I believe that our firm has the know-how, having done so many of these deals. You have to be careful on who you select and go to market with. So, let us know if you have any questions. My email is john@tworoadsadvisors.com. The website is tworoadsadvisors.com. We'd love to, talk to you guys. And look, my view on this is for Amazon brands working with agencies like Margin and with Eva as well on the tech side, those are all huge value drivers, and those are really important factors. So I'd love to have a way to have work with everyone who's in the space. But thanks for having me on the podcast, and
thank you for your time. Really, it was great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Okay, speak later. Bye-bye.